All right, so thanks for staying with us. Now, the exact structure of a non-profit organization depends partly on where it is incorporated. Some states have their own requirements for the number of directors or other officers of the non-profit. However, the basic structure of a non-profit is generally the same everywhere. The structure is divided into three fundamental areas: governance, programs, and administration, and then further subdivided within each area depending on the purpose and the goal of the non-profit. Now, stories of cases of fraud in non-profit organization is not news to most of us. Why is this very rampant? We're asking tonight. And what are the legalities involved, right? What is the ideal business structure for a non-profit organization? Because, I mean, a lot of people are actually going into non-profits, they set it up and they run it, but not many people understand how it's supposed to be structured. So in case there are laws, of the land, you're not breaking up any such rules, right? So let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. All right, so money. Since you are the lawyer here, help me out, because okay, so the background of this conversation started when we saw the post of the going all over social media, and everybody's just backlashing and saying, pastors, because it's very quick. Anything that has to do with pastors or whatever, we do not spare them. We just jump on it. We could go talk now, offering and all of those things, right? But I want to believe that some churches are getting it right. I want to believe that, for instance, let me speak of my own church. I know that there's a proper organizational structure. Currently now, my senior pastor and his wife, they are not even in Nigeria, but the church is still running. Everything is going on. The accounts are there. Somebody's in charge of the accounts and all of that. So the question around, because this church falls under non-profit, not-for-profit organizations, right? So the question around structure, because I have a non-for-profit organization, and I don't think I have beyond maybe one or two people as signatories to the account. I know that I'm not getting it right, because ideally you're supposed to have a proper structure, that you're supposed to do audited accounts and all of that. Because again, some of these funds that are given to you as a not-for-profit is in trust that you're going to use it, to help people. I judiciously use mine funds to help people, even with my personal money and everything, but I can still say that if it comes to the structure, I don't think I have done it well, structurally. So I just want us to use this as an opportunity to educate ourselves, right? So if we're thinking to set up non-for-profit churches or whatever, what are the ideal things you should put in place as a business structure? Then I'll come to Uti.
Okay, so the NGO is a non-profit organization which is organized for a particular purpose. So a good example of this is the Nigerian Red Cross Association. So we know that is for the public. So they are supposed to help to touch lives. They are supposed to help the government, to create changes in different areas. They are also supposed to help to compel the government to do the right things, So the KAMA empowers the CAC, to regulate the non-profit organizations. So what they're supposed to do is abide by the obligations. And some of these obligations are the laws of incorporations, fundraising legislations, equal employment principles, health and safety. So privacy, there are just a lot of them, trademark and copyright. So they are also supposed to file their returns. And like the name implies, it's for non-profit. It's not for profits, meaning that whatever it is that it's in line with their objectives is what they're supposed to stick by. So if, for example, if the objective of your organization is to help, let's say, the orphanage homes, so you're supposed to abide by the legislation of that, strictly by it. So you don't take the funds in your organization that is supposed to be used to help the orphans and then used to help maybe like an organization for pets. Yes. So we're supposed to abide by those legislators or legislations. So then we also have issues with mismanagement. They are not supposed to mismanage funds. They are not supposed to commit any fraudulent act. They are not supposed to do any misconduct everything has the consequences. So they're punishable by law, sometimes by jail term. So when we look at this issue with this church right now, I think I went back to read the background story of this church in the UK. It's not really fraud as we know fraud, because the NGOs in the UK are highly regulated. They're not like our NGOs here. Who is really regulating our NGOs? You just said something. You run an NGO. Has anybody called you? Have you filed any returns? Is anybody checking what you're doing? The reason why nobody's really checking you is in Nigeria, we kind of run what we run without any help from the government. But it's not the same case in the UK. In the UK, the government is interested in all this because, they take taxation very seriously. In Nigeria, so many companies are not paying taxes. And the government, they don't even know. So the NGO in the UK, they are not supposed to pay taxes as well as the ones in Nigeria. But in the UK, they make sure that everything they are doing is in line with their objectives. Then another thing that the UK government does is for every £1 that the NGOs give out, the UK gives them 20. They match it. Exactly. So because they match it, they have stakes in the company as well. They watch it. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So they take that seriously. So the way we look at fraud in Nigeria is in amongst these NGOs, not the way they look at fraud. So if this thing happens in Nigeria, you say, oh yes, they've embezzled money, they are eating people's tithes and offering. But in the UK, it might be something as small as not filing returns.
That's what I was going to say. That we even file returns in
exactly.
Nigeria.
It's something as small as that. So yes, it's very different, but there are laws governing the NGO. Yes.
Okay, let me come to you, Uti. You are a Ukrainian. You are British.
Yeah, so she will know something about.
Well, did you find time to actually read this story? And can you just give us like a little bit of what you know when it comes to non-profits? Companies abroad?
So really for me, it's about the non-profits and the way they're set up. I think Mani is giving us a good foundation, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me, when I saw this story, I didn't read it, but the headline immediately caught me because it was the UK, and I'm like, these people don't learn. This is not the first time a Nigerian church is falling foul to the UK Charities Commission. If we recall many years ago, another channel, yes, KICC, also fell into some problems with the Charities Commission, where there was the issue that started it off was actually the fact he wasn't actually drawing a salary, but when he turned 50, the board of trustees of the church or the leadership decided to buy him a gift of a car. Now they didn't apply, which would be a normal thing, right? We see it happen here in Nigeria all the time. But in the UK, because as Mani said, it's quite heavily regulated, they didn't apply for a waiver to be allowed to spend those kind of funds on a gift for personal use. And of course, that then caused an investigation. And that was almost like opening a door into looking into the church and realizing that they had made some investments to the tune of millions of pounds and had lost money in those investments. So they were investments of a high risk nature. And lost money. So this is not the first time that we would say, in the legal sense of it, that there was no precedent, right? If you are operating in the UK, in that particular space, we see that, we understand that it's highly regulated, and we've seen other similar organizations that have had these kinds of issues. So when I saw the headline, I thought, don't we learn what could have possibly happened here for you to fall foul in a very highly regulated country? I mean, in that KICC issue, the entire board of trustees was fired, and then they had to hire interim management, and they had to turn the church into a company and all those kind of things. So when I see that this is still happening, it's the idea for me of how is this structured? Where are the checks and balances that are put in place to prevent these things from happening? If we come away from the faith-based sector, in 2020, when we had COVID, it seemed like, money was flying around all over the place. NGOs, people were setting up NGOs just so that they could, yes, I don't want to be cynical and say that they were doing it just to make money, but there was a lot of money flying around, and there was a lot of foreign funds available to help in that time of COVID when, of course, there was a real need. So what checks and balances are in place to actually prevent these issues? What kind of structure? So when we talk about non-profits, of course, there's so many things that come under that umbrella of non-profits, whether they're trusts or they're incorporated charities or non-incorporated associations, or even, in fact, like yourself, who are somebody that's just looking to set something up to benefit a collective under a certain banner. So it's really now coming to the point where we don't even have a culture in Nigeria here, right? The way we have in places like the UK, where giving to charity, some people do it like it's almost like a financial transaction, right? You have a direct debit on your account and you're just giving money to a charity that you believe in their cause. So if we say that we want to add more structure, if you remember when we had TA on the show and he was talking about the stuff that he was doing or he had been doing in that what's the word now? The word escapes me. It's not charity, philanthropy, right? In the work that he started doing in his state, we have a huge need for non-profits and NGOs and the work that they do in Nigeria. We all know that poverty is rife. We know that in every key sector, education, health, there are a myriad of issues. So we have enough going for us here where we need to for us to feel the ripple effect of Uwa is doing her own NGO, Uti is doing her own NGO, the ladies of Weza. Everybody's doing their little bits in bits and pieces. But of course, it's not scaling because we have a huge population, we have a huge problem. So we're not enjoying some of the benefits that more organized charities and NGOs see in other countries. Like the one that comes to mind for me is one that is close to my heart, is the Macmillan Cancer Trust. It's a very old, very big charity that offers, care and support for cancer patients. You can actually feel their impact, right, on a national scale in the UK. So if we want to see that kind of impact for our NGOs, the structures need to change. The coming together, rather than having all these mushrooms, which opens actually the room for fraud, right? Because anybody can set it up and it's not properly governed. But if we start to come together and pool these funds in a way under proper structure, it would really change the impact of what that money and the kind of charity and philanthropy that we're doing in Nigeria would have.
Absolutely. Because I mean, I like where you're going with the conversation, because now what I think the downside to some of these things are that we're not putting structure to it. It makes it difficult, right, for people to be comfortable donating. So for instance, now the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for instance, you see top players donating to that cause because there is a proper structure, and they believe that whatever dime that I'm giving to this organization will be used, judiciously. But like you rightly mentioned, like some of us that have mushroom NGOs that are not structured, right? And this is not to say that even the structured ones are not fraudulent. There's a lot of fraud going on in non-governmental organizations because it's supposed to be like you are not accountable to whatever income comes. But I mean, from what you're saying that you're supposed to be filing returns and all that tells me that a lot of us are actually, fraudulent, if I want to put the words that they're saying.
Yes.
A lot of us are fraudulent because nobody is filing any. Yes, well, because it's the breach of how it's supposed to be, right? So how do we begin to start to correct this, and probably if we want to say we want to get it right, because now there is a law in Nigeria, but it's just that these things are not being implemented. If they implement it today, it means that a lot of these not-for-profit organizations, right, be it church, whatever, NGOs or whatever, they would shut them down, right? But let me take a break. We'll come back from the break, then we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're discussing the ideal business structure for non-profit organization, and this is coming off of the back of the church in the UK that was shut down because of suspected fraudulent activities, right? So please, let's hear what you have to say. If you have an NGO, it would be nice to share how you are running your organization. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-8663. You can also tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. So, what I was saying, that how do we begin to correct this? Because again, whether we like it or not, Uti, you called us mushroom NGOs. There's still room for people like us in the scheme of things, you know, because like what I do, for instance, with my NGO, I don't think anybody's doing it, right? So I like to engage children intellectually. So they play games of chess, Scrabble, and IO annually, you know, over 3,000 children gathered in a hall, and we make sure that the winners go home. So the goal was supposed to match up. So when you have intellectual events, usually it is a handshake and 10,000 naira, thank you for coming. But we're trying to also up the game. First of all, it is done world-class standard, you know, and secondly, it's also to ensure that these children look forward to playing the games because they are winning something substantial. So there's seed funds towards their school fees, and there's also, we give them gadgets. So we give them laptops, we give them tablets and all of that. We give them school bags. So there's a lot that goes on. So it is almost, and again, it's around the new term. So just before September, you do it in August, and a lot of children are engaged in it. So they're looking forward to coming for it. So they know that there's something that their intellect can earn them. So it's like placing value on their intellectual capacity, right? But you see, there's a room for somebody like me, the mushroom NGO. But how do I begin to get it right that I am not bridging any form of, you know, so that tomorrow nobody comes to accuse me of being fraudulent? Because sometimes, again, ignorance, but they say in law, ignorance is, what do you call it? It's no excuse. But, you know, ignorance sometimes play out hugely in some of these things. People don't know. Because there's room to just start a church like that, especially in Nigeria, or start an NGO. You just start and you don't check what needs to be in place. Yeah.
So what are their guidelines, like we talked about, for these NGOs? The KAMA has empowered the CAC, you know, to register NGOs and just watch over them. Instead of them to, like now we talked about the UK. In the UK, they have the charity commissions that check and balance everything NGOs. So now we have the CAC, we have the KAMA. So, but instead of them to, you know, look at the NGOs and see what they are not doing and see what they're supposed to be doing, you know, just generally regulate them. In 2020, the KAMA made new provisions regarding the administrations of churches. So when we are looking at NGO in the UK and in the world over, we look at NGOs, non-profit organization, non-governmental organizations, but CAC has narrowed theirs down to the churches. You understand? So I think that's where the problem starts from. So these new provisions came out in 2020, and it's talking about the CAC having power to remove trustees in the NGO and appoint new trustees, even non-Christian trustees, to run the church. So that in the first place is wrong, you know. So there has been major apprehension among Christian folks concerning this new provision. So for me now, if I were to answer your question, like how are you supposed to run your NGO correctly, like I said, there are guidelines in CAC, in KAMA. You can look them up. File returns. Are you filing your returns? Who are the board of trustees in your NGO? Are you up to 3 or are you less than 3? You're not supposed to be less than 3. We
have 3. We did a proper registration.
Okay, fine. So what are your objectives? Are you following your objectives? You know, so you just look at these things and then you just make sure you are in line with everything that your objective says. You have a constitution. You know, everything is founded on the constitution of the NGO. So you just go back to the books and look at what you are doing, what you're not doing, and just correct it. Because one day I believe that Nigeria will get to the place where we would start to follow things according to the books, and then you won't want to be found wanting in that time. Yeah.
So Uti, I was going to ask Uti if oh, okay. Uti, can you hear me?
She's there.
Yeah, but it's very faint.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So I was just going to ask you that, you know, Now I'm losing my thoughts.
Why?
I don't know why I'm losing my thoughts. But I was going to ask you, what's your take on, what's it called, the infrastructural, currently as we run our NGOs in Nigeria? Do you think we're doing it fairly? You know, are we doing it well in Nigeria?
I don't even know that we have enough insight or data to be able to make that assertion of whether it's right or wrong. I think what we know is that there are enough gaps for us to be able to take advantage of it, right? Anything, like Manny says, has anybody asked you for your returns? Is anybody checking what you're doing? If you're actually meeting the conditions of the organization that you've set up. So typically, if you're setting this up, do you have some sort of charter or some sort of bylaws, something that guides how you operate, where you source your funds, what funds can be spent on. So all these governance issues, right, that should actually be monitored. Right now, it's at the discretion of whoever the founder is, whether or not how they choose to raise funds, where they choose to source the funds from, whether or not they're accountable for how the funds are spent. So there's a lot of gaps. So we don't know now the extent of the abuse. I mean, we see the stories from time to time. I remember reading a story, I think somewhere in 2020, of a young man who had approached, I believe it was a UK or US charity, to raise funds in the name of, I believe it was safe abortions for girls in Borno, or something to do with Boko Haram. And he had essentially just realized that this was a free-for-all. He could claim whatever, because it was an African country, he could fake whatever documents or whatever he needed to prove to this organization that he was actually going to genuinely spend these funds for the cause. And of course, which he didn't. So he was just living a lavish lifestyle of the money that he was collecting. So we see these kinds of cases periodically. But the truth is, do we even have a real scope on the amount of NGOs that we have? Yes, we have some that are registered, right? But like we said, a lot of people are doing charity. A lot of people are out there feeding people, educating people, and none of it is tracked. So it is really about how big is the NGO sector in Nigeria, or the charitable sector, philanthropy sector in Nigeria. Can we really say that we know how big it is? For us to then talk about the structure. If it comes to, yes, when we register it, like Manny was saying, you can register an NGO today, just like you can register a company. So do we have some rules and guidelines in place? We do. But as always, what is being enforced? What is being monitored? What is being managed appropriately? That we cannot speak to. So even take orphanages, for example. We have lots of orphanages all over the place. People, you see pictures all the time making the rounds on social media. Either one organization or one celebrity or somebody has gone to give rice and noodles and all of these things. Who's to say that those things are actually, the orphanages are actually using it as they should? And, one staff is not just like, hey, I'm hungry, here's a box of noodles, I'll just take it home. So are these checks and balances in place at the level of the NGOs, but even at a level where it's being monitored? That I don't think we have, and I think we can certainly do better. If there's a lot more confidence in that sector, we could see a lot more people spending a lot more money to give.
Absolutely. Mani, what do you think the challenges are? What's the real problem? Why can't we have that?
In Nigeria, we have issues like what he's talking about, regulators. We have issues with regulators. We have issues with regulations. So if people don't even know it, we register NGOs here like we're just registering a limited liability company, and there's supposed to be a difference. So many people register NGOs because they don't want to pay taxes. But the truth is, many companies in Nigeria don't even pay taxes, and the government don't even know these companies, But I think the major issue, especially if I want to address what Uti is saying, is regulations and regulators. Another major issue that we have with the NGOs is the founders issue. In the UK, they change the board of trustees every 7, 8, 10 years. But in Nigeria, we have the same board of trustees forever.
Now you did there when God they give me the vision.
I'm telling you, like, what are you doing there? Why are you the only signatory to the church's account? Why are you the only signatory to your organization? So
you were not there when I was called, man.
Yes, I know it wasn't a conference call. Yes, we know that. But then again, that is a major issue. You understand? So because of this lack of regulators, we can do these things that we are not supposed to do, and then it continues to happen. Nobody governs, and then everybody continues doing.
But is it deliberate that the church is actually, or most of the NGOs keep away what it is that they're earning, because maybe for the fear of maybe the government asking them to start paying taxes or something? Is that
part of the reason why this whole issue came up in 2020 was because of the lavish way pastors were living. A lot of pastors have more than 2-3 private jets. They are driving luxury cars. You understand? So why the government is thinking? So why are we not taxing
the blessing
people?
of the Lord? And
we know.
No sorrow to it, baby.
Well, we know, but it now brings us back to that place. Why are we not taxing these people? Because they are living even better than the government, like government officials, or even, you know, foreign organization workers. So, and all this is happening because nobody is regulating them. Uti said something about what happened in KICC. They decided to buy a car. These are things that happen in Nigeria all the time. They buy cars for their pastors. They buy jets, private jets for pastors. They do a lot of things. Who is regulating? Where are these monies? What are the monies being used for? Are this money being used for what they said the objectives of the organizations? You know.
Well,
so
let me help you out. Wait, I want to ask a very, very innocent question, Manny. Don't use your lawyer eye to look at me. I just want to know: is it possible for a church to have a clear objective? Because these days,
yes,
churches do everything.
No, they
pay hospital bills, they pay school fees, they give you money for your rent, they give you house, they give you. So, is it possible to actually streamline? I'm just focusing on the churches now. So, if it's an NGO like mine that is focused on children, I have a clear goal. My own is clear. My goal is to focus on. I cannot come and if you meet me as a mommy, sorry, I don't have your budget. But I'm saying that for churches, it's going to be very tough. For religious bodies,
no,
right?
all those things come under charitable donations. So I think they are allowed to make charitable donations.
So they can tell you that the car that they are buying for the pastor is charitable donation.
No, you know why? In the UK, if you have a car that is for your organization, you cannot, the pastor has no right to use the organization's car privately, maybe to pick his children or to go for his own runs. No, he has no right to do that. So that means the church has no right to use the funds of that organization to buy a car. Wow. Yeah. So it's highly regulated. That's why everything works the way it works. And that's why you see the post that you saw today, you know.
So they said that, let's go back to this church man.
Okay.
Right. They said that the company's financial statement in 2 years to December 2021 set out to be 610,000 pounds of rent expenditure. I mean, there are so many misappropriations. I think something around his rentals, right? That there were too many. Then he was coercing, what's it called? Coercing the church members, right? To vulnerable people and the youth. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Much of his charitable work were based in London, working particularly. I'm trying to find the part where they talked about him coercing the members, you know, to make donations and all of that.
Which is what they all do. Like, it's normal.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, like, this is what we see regularly. So, why would they call it a fraudulent activity? So, is it that as bodies, Christian bodies, you're not allowed to ask members to donate or something? Is it that it is illegal?
You used the word what? You said they were trying to
coerce.
Yes. Yes, they are not supposed to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so
it's okay to ask for donations, but you don't try to force the hands of your members to give you money. Yes.
Otielu.
Yes, ma'am.
I think this
I'm struggling to hear you guys, but go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Oti.
So sorry.
It's actually a straightforward case. There are laws guiding these NGOs. We just don't follow these laws. because there's nobody watching to see who's following. You understand? When you started reading, you talked about the laws, you talked about administration. So there's no administration. You understand? So that's why things are the way they are. And then it happens that it's always Nigerian pastors are always getting into this kind of issues abroad, because in Nigeria we do things and we get away with them, but abroad we do not get away with them. Yeah.
So if you had something to say to the pastor, what would you say to him now?
Well, so, I mean, it's very simple, right? I think that in a place like Nigeria, you can say it's ambiguous. You can say it's not clear, that I don't know or I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But remember that I said that even if you say you didn't,
ignorance is
precedent exists. You have seen a very similar organization like yourself go through a particular process. So if you are now being asked to account for 1.87 million pounds, and the UK government is able to hold you to say there's a lack of transparency, these monies have been spent, there is no clear trail of how the money has been spent. So essentially, that means that you've not been keeping your books accurately, or you've been treating it as whether it's that you were treating it as a personal purse, or you were just bad at accounting, or you just gave a couple of examples of things that churches do. It could also very well be that this money had been spent in a purely honest way, and it was just pure accounting. But we don't have, at least I don't have enough information from what I've read about this to show that the church has been properly investigated. So I don't believe that they have responded yet. But the investigation is still ongoing. What I would say for this pastor, and in fact, not this pastor, because his own case is irredeemable now. At least the investigation church has been shut down. But for pastors that find themselves, particularly in the UK, particularly outside of Nigeria, don't take Nigerian anyhowness abroad. It's not going to work. There are clear rules. Ignorance is no defense. You need to learn what the rules say you can.
I was going to say that. Sorry. I'm so sorry. You know, I just saw the picture. I was going to tell them to put on the picture. They said they are looking for 1.9 million pounds. The basket is wearing. Let them start from there.
But I don't even want to go down that route, because there are many ways in which you can make money. So I come back to the KICC example. At the time when that issue happened, Pastor Matthew wasn't actually drawing a salary from the church, right? He chose to make his own money from his other businesses, right? And a lot of pastors do that. So I don't even want to look at that. But this one now is really, we can't keep seeing these things happen. And you know what it does? What is sad for me is that it shines a negative spotlight on the church, on the Pentecostal, these churches of Nigerian origin. We have plenty of them. So it begins to shine a negative spotlight on that, in the mind of the UK government or Charities Commission. Do we now need to start looking into all Nigerian, faith-based organizations? So the fact is, I want to believe that most of these people are doing the right thing or want to do the right thing, but you can't hide behind ignorance. And the tune of money, 1.9 million pounds. Even naira, 1.9 million is money, comes up of pounds, and we know what the exchange rate is. So it's a lot of money that we're talking about that is allegedly unaccounted for. So you can't have that kind of money passing through your organization and you don't have a proper structure to manage it. It's not going to end well, as we can see here. So the guide for other pastors, like you said, there's enough precedent. If you're in the UK, if you're in the US, if you're outside of Nigeria, in fact, even if you're in Nigeria, put proper governance structures in place.
Absolutely.
So that you put your faith, you position your faith in the right light. We've had so many different discussions on the show. I remember when Sanzi and I were talking about the pastor and the private jets. And I'm like, can we just do enough to put this faith in the right light and not keep having to talk about money when we talk about the Christian faith.
Absolutely. Manny, I was going to ask that if he comes back eventually to then like what's it called, like account, do a proper auditing, they come to the system, is it possible for him to be redeemed back, like reinstated,
yes.
right?
Yes, of course.
So all he needs to do is just be accountable, right?
Yes, if that really is what the issue is.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. If you had any final words?
Yeah, final words. I would say for us in Nigeria, our regulators don't know the regulations. Yeah, so I would say that the CAC is a government agency, and our government has a record of being inefficient and corrupt. So if the CAC is the body that is supposed to be regulating the NGOs, we see why there's a problem.
Means that there will not be some way forward. A lot of messages are coming on Peter Obi. Obviously, they are watching us on GoTV. So we're not taking those messages. But I mean, this is why you see a lot of churches, a lot of pastors harassing people, you know, saying donate, donate, donate. Because when they donate that money, nobody goes back to account. Only very few churches. And I must commend my church, Daystar.
I would like to commend the Elevation Church. The
Elevation Church, because he's a protege.
Yeah.
He's a protege. He was trained well by Daystar Christian Center. I mean, when you go there, you know that it's an organizational structure. They have a proper structure. It's not like, you know, this is a one-man kind of thing. So if Pastor Sam decides to say, I'm retiring from pastoring, the church goes on.
And that's one of the benefits of the NGO. It's supposed to continue.
And that's also what the Catholics, you know, the Anglicans, the Baptists, those are the structures that they have
in place,
right? So I think all these things that we're talking about when it comes to churches are more linked to the Pentecostal churches, right? The modern churches and all of that. If not, if you look at the old structure of churches, they had all those structures in place, right? So hopefully, like Uti has rightly advised, if you are going to, you can only try this in Nigeria. You're going to the UK, I mean, please, yes, there is actually supposed to be an ideal business structure for running a non-for-profit organization. I think it would be best for you to follow through, cross all the T's and dot all the I's, so you don't be caught, you know, wanting. Thank you so much, ladies. We had a fantastic, this has been a blissful week. Let me just leave it there. Thank you, Uti. We had a fantastic conversation. Now, before we go, do follow us on Instagram. You can follow us, interact with us, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you missed today's quote, here it is again. The real development I've seen of people in organizations, especially in big ones, comes from their being volunteers in a non-for-profit organization where you have responsibilities, you see results, and you quickly learn what your values are. There is no better way to understand your strength and discover where you belong than to volunteer in a non-for-profit. Now, that is probably the great opportunity for the social sector, and especially in its relationship to business. A lot of great things happen in churches. A lot of great things happen in non-for-profit, right? So let's not abuse it. Let's learn the structure and put the structures in place. We'll see you guys live on Monday at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.